So, Kyle, those are my week 7 or week 6 predictions. We'll see how it comes out. But yeah, I can't wait for next week. No, the bye weeks for teams are already starting, so not as many games to review, which gives me a little bit more time to to go and do these videos. But thank you again, Kyle. And of course, remember to subscribe to Football Overseas, and big up everyone. Peace. For one game, I want to talk about the last one, Monday Night Football. I believe it's the Cowboys and the Chargers. Now, the Cowboys coming off a tough, I don't want to say tough loss because, look, to be honest, so far the Cowboys have not faced a playoff contending team, or at least one against a playoff contending team. They got dogged by the Eagles and they got destroyed by the Niners. The two NFC teams that are probably going to be in the NFC Championship to win and go on to the Super Bowl. But all their wins, Patriots, didn't matter. Jets, I believe they played. Okay. And then they blew out the Giants 40-0. None of these wins were impressive, and now they're going to go against the Chargers, who they're doing okay, 500, 2-2. And right now with the Cowboys, the injuries are piling up. Dak is looking more under pressure. I won't be surprised if this is another loss for the Cowboys. It'll be very close. I think. And Micah Parsons also limping off from against the Niners last week. So if he's gone, this should be a Chargers win. I'm going to predict the Chargers win. I'm going to say 28-24. Hopefully that comes true. I don't mind seeing these Cowboys going down and then the fan base freaking out. We them boys, it's our year, blah, blah, blah. Every single year. I'm tired of it. Hopefully they won't see a win for a while. I know they're going to have a tough schedule. Let me see here with the Cowboys. Another season, they might go 8. They might only get 8 wins this season, but I need to see who they play. So right now, yeah, of course the Chargers this week. But let me see the rest of their schedule. Rams, okay, that'll be a tough one. Eagles, easy win. Giants, okay, that's an easy win for the Cowboys. Panthers, easy win for the Cowboys. So look at that. They're going to get a little booster before they go into their the Thanksgiving game versus the Commanders. But then they're going to play the Seahawks. That might be a dub for the Seahawks. Eagles, sweep. Bills, killing them. Dolphins, killing them. Lions, killing them. And the Commanders at the end. But the only thing I can see with the Lions is that by then, if they've already clinched the playoff spot or their division, then Cowboys might win that and then try to get a playoff wild card spot versus the Commanders by the last game of the season. Either way, yeah, they might end up with 8 wins for the rest of the season, but we'll see. It all depends on Dak. It all depends on the coach to see what's going on. I think it's still Mike McCarthy. It's going to be an interesting game, but yeah, big up Kyle. So now we're back with week 6 predictions. Alright, I'm going to start this video off a little different, so I'm just going to cluster games together because I believe these are all going to be blowouts and not even going to be close. Just don't need to go into analysis of these games, but for the Chiefs, the Niners, the Bills, and the Eagles, 4 games, complete blowouts. Each team is going to win by at least 3 touchdowns. It's, we got the Bills going against the Giants, easy. Eagles versus Jets without Rodgers, easy. Niners remain undefeated. This might be the closest one out of those 4 clusters of games. But then you have the upcoming game, Chiefs versus Broncos at Arrowhead. It's just Patrick Mahomes 4 touchdown performance I'm expecting. But going into the London game at Tottenham, it's going to be interesting enough. During the international break, we're going to see a king go around England out of all times, and it's going to be King Henry going to face the Titans. This game is going to be an interesting one because you have, let me see here. You got King Henry, Derrick Henry, playing all types of mediocre, everything besides royalty level, ironically enough. And I won't be surprised if the Baltimore defense, especially with Queen, even more irony, are going to hold him up. And it's going to, because right now he's been, actually, the Ravens have been holding up their running opponents to 3.8 yards a carry, which is above average, so we got to give them some respect. But also, let me see here just to go over the notes. With also Henry having 3.3 per carry, not really all that effective, but that's where the slack's been picked up by Spears, who doesn't get the ball much, but 7 touches last game, got a touchdown. Only gets a quarter of the carries, but 5.8 yards per carry, that's ridiculous. So as long as he can be plan B, the Titans have a chance. But really, Tannehill and Hopkins, even though they finally found some chemistry, finally got together last week, I think it's mostly Tannehill that's holding up the process, and I think he's going to continue having a bad streak of games, or at least mediocre games, to be honest. But either way, he's not doing anything to change the 75.8 rating he's been having. For this one, defense alone for the Ravens will carry them. I think a 20-7 win, even though Jackson has not been the best in his passing game, especially playing in the pocket. He's not a pocket quarterback. It's been clear. He's better on the run, and also when he stays in the pocket, he stays frozen. And right now, I think Ravens have allowed the most, or one of the most sacks in the league. So as long as he gets more freedom, I think he'd be fine. Now for the Saints versus Texans, Saints have probably one of the best passing defense, and actually do really well against the receivers. I think they're ranked 3rd overall when it comes to the receiver ratings. And that could have been boosted by an easy game versus the Patriots, who have just been looking like crap as of late. Mac Jones is not the solution. Bill Belichick just looks miserable, just looks like he wants to retire from football altogether. And they're not going to go against a Mac Jones. They're going to go against C.J. Stroud, a kid who doesn't know the meaning of mistakes. Granted, he's not flawless, but what he lacks in his experience, he makes up for smart decisions and awareness. He didn't get sacked at all last week. And actually, let me see here. So far, 7 touchdowns in the season, 98.4 overall rating so far, 0 sacks, not even just from last game, the last 3 games. So this kid, he's aware in the pocket, he's mobile, he's accurate, he's smart. So, and this is actually what's looking like is saving their season, because Pierce in the run game has been absent all season so far. So if it's going to have to be on Stroud's shoulders. So I'm going to go, but with that being said, I'm still going to go with the Saints on this one. But just with their pass defense alone, I think it's going to be a win. David Carr can put up big numbers against Texas, especially if they allowed what they did versus the Falcons. That's who they faced. So I got to see who the Colts played last week. I need to double check on that one. But anyways, the Texans pass defense against Ritter just was poor, and if David Carr can get a half of that, it's going to be, I won't say a high-scoring game. I'm going to keep it 14-7, or 14-7, a little bit more conservative there, but yeah, could be a closer game than expected. And the other one, AFC rivalry with the Jaguars and the Colts. Gardner Minshew looks like he's going to be starting this game with Richardson looking to be, I think he's on IR, injury reserve, so not a good sign. But Minshew did do enough to see the Jags carry out probably one of the surprising wins of the season, and in London, nonetheless, versus the Bills. But I think this all became as well from the run game finally discovered from the Jaguars was Etienne. Got 2 touches, or touchdowns. But also Zach Moss for the Colts, respectively, did the same thing in the previous game. And I want to say that was against the Ravens, Falcons. But again, I'd look at that again. But yes, for this one, if this is the reason why the Jags had a good game by beating the Bills was because of Etienne, uh, it might lean in favor with the Colts because even though it's a backup QB, it looks like that they will come to the run defense of the Colts, ranked 5th for yards per carry allowed. Maybe Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley finally found chemistry themselves. They connected for 7 out of 8 times, but this looked like it was more from Etienne just slicing and dicing to the Bills' run defense. So with that being said, I think Jaguars win 24-17. We'll see. It's going to be interesting without Richardson. Now for the Seahawks versus Bengals, Joe Burrow and it looks like his calf are back. He said in the post-game conference that his calf is perfectly fine now, and it looked like it because I have not seen Joe Burrow all season long until last weekend. And it looks like it's just in time versus the struggling pass defense of Seattle. But this is going to be a quarterback type of affair game. Geno Smith versus Joe Burrow. And Jamar Chase, too, also having a great game last week versus the Cardinals. I mean, this is the Cardinals. They don't have really much to brag about except that they beat the Cowboys. So always got to throw that out there. And let's see here. So the biggest matchup, I think, is going to be with Devin Witherspoon, the rookie, versus Joe Burrow. This kid had a great game last week. It was against the Giants, to be fair, but it's still, nonetheless, I think he pulled off, 2 sacks, a pick 6, and I think a second and a fumble recovery. This kid did it all. I mean, I think if he wasn't MVP of the game, I don't know who was. But for this one being said, I think it's going to be high scoring, and I'm going to say, I think I'm actually going to go with 28-24 Bengals. I think let's see if Joe Burrow's back. Alright, so probably for the game for the weekend, Lions versus Bucks. Big game, 2 teams flying high. Especially with the Buccaneers offense scoring almost 100 points, I think 99 to be exact, over 4 games. Either way, averaging around 25 points a game, just ridiculous. And expected if you wanted to win games. But most importantly, knowing that the Bucks or no team that the Bucks have faced has scored more than 17. I think they had 2 games at 17 and then 6 and 3. So the defense is there, but granted, they the 6 and 3 I think were against the Panthers. I forgot the other team. It was not a heavy contention team neither, but regardless, to hold them to less than a touchdown is quite impressive. But that number can change when they go against the Lions. And yes, Lions as well can argue that they haven't beat any powerhouse team all season. Yes, they beat Kansas City, even though it was without Travis Kelce and Mr. Taylor Swift, and also Jones, I think the defensive end, because of contract dispute. With that being said, no other team really. Let me see here. And Lions, even though they have an offense that's also flying high, they are allowing way too many points, especially when they gave Bryce Young what I consider his best game of the season so far. Even though his QBR and ratings wouldn't agree with what I'm saying, but to have his best game of yards, 3 touchdowns, his highest in one game, it's just ridiculous. Like Mr. 0-4 had a performance that looked like he was going to carry the Panthers to the playoffs. Well, that's not going to say that 0-4 is pretty much all set and done unless they pull some type of miracle. Anyways, so with that being, I think this game can go into OT, with both teams just scoring at high levels. Now, if the Lions allow the type of numbers they allowed Bryce Young with Baker Mayfield, and when he has the weapons of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, oh my goodness! Anyone who has the Lions on defense in fantasy better drop them right now, because this is going to be a high scoring game. I'm going to say Bucks win 35-30. Okay, so Las Vegas Raiders versus the New England Patriots. Just how appropriate that this game could be in Vegas, and I don't think anyone's going to be putting their home or their mortgage up for to bet on the Patriots, because this team is a disaster. Their only win this season was a gimme from the Jets, who they haven't lost to in the past, 15 games? 16 games, I think, now. Either way, it's just an abysmal season so far. They're trying to call it quits. And it just, I don't think there's any signs of changes with this team. If you really want to take a look at how the Patriots seasons have been, look at their game versus the Saints last week, and there was the interception that's just comedic. It was the final nail in the coffin. I think it was late in the game too, but just goes to show. I mean, I couldn't have summarized the season better. But let me see here. But in Jimmy Garoppolo had the opposite. You know, the only thing I could see that this is a trap game, and Vegas, as Vegas would call it, a trap game, where they just pull up an upset out of nowhere. But I don't think that's really going to happen. Even though Raiders have been not much better, relatively speaking, but compared to the Patriots, they're gonna make them look like they should be in the playoff talks. But for this one, I'm just gonna say easy win for the Raiders, 28-6. I don't think the Patriots are gonna find the end zone at all this weekend. So the game that I wanted to at least talk about, because it involves my Washington Commanders going against a Falcons team that looks like they found some life from what they had last week. I think they pulled off a win. I want to see who it was against the Falcons. Again, that's who the Texans have faced when I was talking about earlier. Falcons, Ritter had a week to remember, a game to remember. And the Commanders coming off an embarrassing loss, and can argue it's a track game. I don't want to believe this, that the Bears, who are winless, they've been winless in the last 14 games, to then beat us in primetime football, which apparently they thrive in. I didn't see that. I don't want to excuse that, because you didn't win for 14 games. You tell me none of those games were primetime? Anyways, well, the big thing with the Commanders is that Sam Howell, first of all, cannot read a defense at the line. He's making poor decisions. And also, even when he can make the right decision, the offensive line doesn't keep protecting the pocket. I think they have the worst sacks allowed in the season so far. But other than that, the main problem, I think, would be the defense, which, minus the pass rush, with the first round defensive line that we have with Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Chase Young, the secondary has been abysmal. The linebacking core has been poor. We've allowed I think so far the worst, or like bottom 3 for yards per carry against running backs, and then didn't help with the number stats after last week with DJ Moore just balling out. I think he must have caught for like almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jesus Christ. So I don't have any hope for the Redskins Commanders on this one. So I'm going to say Falcons 31, Commanders 20.